How's everybody today? You got your bagels? Coffee? All right. Everybody feeling cool? All right, well, let's begin. I am from Delta Airlines and have been there for quite some time. But in April of 2012, about more than 2 years ago, that's when I joined this business unit called Reservations Sales. Those are the people you talk to when you call the airlines. They actually talk to you. So, what was happening was there is a Delta strategy going on to update and upgrade and modernize our training. And at Reservations, we were examining it. I joined the staff, and our mandate was to come up with look at the new technologies that are available. Now the thing is, we were complaining, actually, our users were complaining that e-learning did not really meet up the promises that it told everybody. In fact, our own e-learning turned out to become very mundane, page turners, and that was it. So, in the discussion, one of the things that always came up were games, because our e-learning designers would put in little games inside the e-learning material. And that, based on survey says, as they say, the games were pretty interesting. The e-learning material was kind of boring. So what happened was, we said, well, why don't we take the games, since they're so darn interesting, and take a look at how we can use that. And maybe we should flip the strategy, and instead of putting games inside learning, let's take the games and put some learning inside it. It's kind of, some people would say it's same difference. But, so we did that, and we thought that was a pretty cool idea, pretty good theory. And so like any self-respecting Fortune 50 company, we thought of, well, how are we going to handle this? Well, let's turn it into a project. So it became a project, and of course, so we thought we had something there, but we still did not know why, how, where, when, how we were going to start it. One of the things that we did was to guess. So, and we came up with some ideas about how to play the game. So what we did was to get together some of our people in the e-learning, or rather in the learning group that we're in. And we decided to just say, hey, just go ahead and play games, and let's take a look at what this is all about. Well, we played everything from World of Warcraft, those kind of war games, shoot 'em up games, and paper toss, even those, everything from, we even looked at old games like Frogger, and if you all remember that. And something came up. Things that were starting to surface were more of the type of games that were like words with friends. And at that time, if you remember 2 years ago, Farmville was such a big darn hit, right? So, well, maybe it's still to some of you guys. But anyway, that's how we started it. And we were just wondering, well, how are we going to do this? What is really the audience that we're really talking to? Well, let me try to explain that to you first. And hardly use PowerPoint, so okay. This is what we were facing. We have 8 call centers located around the United States, and one of them is in Singapore. We did not go straight to the slide. Page up or something? Page down. Oh, I did get it. Okay. Sorry about that. So we have 8 call centers to deal with, and we have close to 5,000 agents. 4,800 of them are the actual front lines that take the action. They take 36 million calls a year. And for every hour that we take them out of servicing customers so that they can do training, it costs Delta $104,000 per hour. So faced with that kind of challenge, that's the reason why we came up with this type of project about learning how to do games. So that's when we thought of what I mentioned to you. Oh, it's the reverse. It works the reverse. Okay. So that's what I was telling you about Farmville and Words with Friends. Those are the ones that came up, even though we started looking at other types of games. We did conduct a lot of focus groups, which is typical, and a lot of surveys, and we developed certain concepts around it. So there we were. We ended up with some kind of design document, a project document, and say, okay, well, this is how we're going to start this. But, well, who's going to help us do this thing? Because we didn't have the in-house resources to create this game that we were thinking of. Well, we searched far and wide. We went through our supply chain, and we ended up with three vendors. In fact, some of the vendors we tried to contact are here. But we ended up with one vendor here in the West Coast, another in the East Coast, and somewhere in the Midwest. By the time we got to the second vendor, we said, oh, we pretty much have an idea of whom we're going to go with. But when we ended up in Chicago in the Midwest, and we thought this was just another ministerial visit, well, you know where that's going. We ended up going with them because when they presented their material to us, we were just floored. They're called Noggin Labs. It's a medium-sized company, and they really impressed us with what they could do. And so with that, I want to present to you what the game kind of looks like. So when you start logging in with the game, you see this portal. In here, you will see, the first thing that you will see are leaderboards. If you want to see this in action later, I can show you more because you have to scroll down. There are 4 kinds of leaderboards here. We even followed some of Gabe's Zickerman's advice, where you can put, like in this case, Ryan Mizuzaki is #1 here, but we want to put where you are in the game and who's on top of you and who's below you. That kind of gives you a little impetus to try and do better. So in the game, we try to, as much as possible, simulate what the delta system is like. Because what the audience told us is, look, we really don't want to have a reservations bill. We don't want to simulate what we're already doing at work, because every day we're faced with the computers, and here you are telling us again to do this. By the way, one of the principles of gaming is, of course, it has to be purely voluntary. I'm sure you've heard that with some of the talks here earlier. And yes, it is voluntary, and because of that, that's how we started getting really nervous about it to see if people were really going to do it. So because of that, we tried to find what is the right type of game that we will show our audience, and it ended up being a travel adventure game. So when you click on this Play Now button, you actually get another screen where the game actually starts. You'll get an old-fashioned departure board, and in this case, it'll tell you up here that you're in Paris, because there are about 19 cities, and you can go anywhere around the 19 cities. You can start anywhere, and it'll give you a choice of where you want to go. So in this case, the player chose Amsterdam. And when you do click on Amsterdam, what happens is another window pops up, smaller window, and it's going to give you some flight details, which is pretty typical. Well, what kind of ticket do you want to buy? You want to buy economy, comfort, or business? In this case, the choice I see is economy, and it is indeed about $3,000 to go from, I'm sorry, that's $3,000 in this case. But you see, what happens is when you choose business, what will happen is your energy bars are going to go down, because the idea is it's more comfortable to, of course, fly business. So that goes on, and what I'd want to show you next is a typical screen. We're not going to go to Amsterdam in this case. We're going to go to New York. So this is the game module that when you first start. This is New York, and let me describe the screen to you a little bit. All of these icons, the background is a city map of New York. And the background shows you different modules that you can play. And each of these modules are, you could say you will have about, you could have something as little as 1 screen or 2 screens of games, or you can have as many as 10 mini games in one of these modules. So for example, in this, this slot machine is only just 1 game. Let me show you that, because this is the illustration I'd like to show you, and how we kind of strategized around, or did some tactics around what we call economies of scale. So the slot machine opens up like this when you click on it. In this case, what we're showing is a learning behavior where you can actually look at the kind of rental car programs that we want to teach our specialists, our agents. In this case, the national brand has this. Let me move here. Right, there is this set of winning combinations that you can use as a legend, so that you will know what kind of winning combinations there are. So instead of 3 cherries or 3 bars or 3 sevens, you end up with those 3 combinations. And so whether if it's national, if it's Alamo or Enterprise, because these are our partners for rental cars, and that's when you will be able to rack up your winnings. You will see that you will see your winnings actually come over here and over here. You will see that, by the way, when you're traveling from city to city, you will earn Sky Miles as well, and your travel score and the kind of ranking that you have based on your achievements. Now, I'm illustrating that because imagine that we have about 220 plus mini games in here. They're all different kinds. But this is the trick that we employed, because when you go to another city, like I believe this is in Detroit, when you pull another slot machine, in this case, it's about baggage. It's about the combination of the kinds of baggage policies that we have. So in this case, if in international economy, you can check up to 1 bag, and it's free. And if you do get that, like the domestic business elite, you get all these 3 combinations, then there is an indication of a win, and you can multiply. There's a multiplier for your earnings. And there's sound effects. There's all of that, and I can show you that too later on after this. The other social aspect of the game is you can post challenges to other people who are within the game, because this is exclusive only to the reservation agents. Some of the names are familiar to you, some are your friends, or if you want to be daring, you can actually even challenge the vice president or your boss if you want to. And some of them have actually used this now to say, you see, it's very precious. When you are, I don't know how many of you have experienced being in a call center, but it is a very difficult job. And when you have like, if you can get 30 minutes off, that's very precious. So what's happening is your leader will say, hey, look, I got 12,300 points here. If you can beat me, I'll take 30 minutes of your time. And that's how things are moving around right now. They're using this mini games to actually make games as well. The other, I thought I was playing the game, sorry. So the other thing is you can actually send souvenirs. You can't really see it from there, but underneath the elbow, this girl is really not really there. But underneath the elbow of this girl, there's a little tiger figurine in there, and you can send it to any of your friends. You can say, hey, Bob, I sent you a souvenir, and that's through email. An email will pop up as they're working or as they're playing the game. An email will pop up and say, hey, somebody sent you, or Bob sent you a tiger souvenir, but you have to go to Tokyo to pick it up. So, and that kind of creates the impetus also for people to, well, I have to go to Tokyo, but I need more money, so they'll have to play more of the game. So there's repeat, and the repeat encourages, of course, it reinforces the knowledge. So that's really a very small idea of what the game looks like. But you have to use your imagination at this point in interest of time because, as I said, there are about 220 of these different types. You can have something similar to, it's like a small part of Candy Crush. So you're actually creating, you're learning something about the Olympics doing that. There's also the memory game where you unveil what's in the background. So you can match, for example, the tales of our different joint venture partners, KLM, could be, I was going to say Virgin Atlantic, it's not there yet, but yes, we are partners with them. So KLM, Air France, and Alitalia. So there are a lot of these games, and the beauty of it is that people are learning from it. And one of the results that we got, which I'll tell you more about it later, but one of the best ways to really find out if this is even working is, I found out from one of the, I think it was one of the Gabe Zickerman's talk about, well, one of the best ways to find out is just ask them. So that's what we did. We asked, well, is this helping you out, really? And there was one occasion where there was this young lady who said, well, I'm from Dallas, and there was this call that I got, and this customer was complaining that he had this long layover in Salt Lake, and he had no idea what to do. And he said, oh, Salt Lake, man, that's such a boring place. I mean, what am I going to do there? And because she learned something about Salt Lake in the game, and she's never been, she said, I sounded so smart because I found out, hey, you can go to the planetarium, blah, blah, blah. Here's this yada, yada in the planetarium. You can go to the mall because you can do this, you can do that. And it made them feel, there was that emotional feeling of, wow, I really feel great. And now they're asking us to say, hey, is there a way in the game where we can kind of press a button and say, I remember seeing that thing about Salt Lake, and you immediately kind of go there. You warp to that part. I said, well, okay, there's some mechanics there that we have to deal with. So, but, okay, just because you build it doesn't mean they're going to go there, right? Because remember, it's purely voluntary. So we had to market the game. That's another aspect of the project that I had to handle. That marketing, that communication is so vital. You have to keep telling people that it's there. You have to keep telling people the obvious things. So what we did was we launched a marketing program to talk about the game. We, of course, had the usual badges. They had all their travel ranks. They have their little electronic pins. But one of the things that we also did was we took advantage of a conference that they have every year. It's called the Lead Conferences, and all the leaders go there. There's about 300 of them. And we showed them the game. We built a kiosk, actually a room, and we put kiosks in there where they can sample the game so that they can spread the good word, spread the gospel. Hey, there's this game. And that's how those things evolved. And we kept, we supported that with more, with print material. Because we don't have the usual channels that we have in the public. We don't have TV, we don't have radio. But we do have video. And we used some cardboard, some gator board cutouts, and we put them all in the call centers. And the cutouts are of the characters, just like this lady here. It's about 6 feet tall. And one of the things that we also employed was, you know, like when you travel, you get souvenirs from the airport, like, you know, those teaspoons or T-shirts or a shot glass. Well, in this case, we used bobbleheads. And here's a screenshot. You actually have a little shelf, and as you complete as you complete a city, like in this case, you have Sydney, Australia, so you get the obvious koala we call Sid. This is in Santiago, Chile. Cincinnati is Hamilton, and Nico is from Tokyo. It's a little bit blurred because it actually bobbles and it has that boing sound in it when you go through it. And there's a little Easter egg too. There are a lot of Easter eggs that we thought would also contribute to the engagement. Here's an idea of the cutouts. So more characters. Yeah, this girl is from Paris. This dude is from LA in Santa Monica. There's another picture here that shows scale. That cutout is Aaron, the uh, bridge walker in Sydney. I don't know how many of you have experienced that. You can actually walk that bridge over in Sydney, but you have to put on that special suit. And our analyst, Mary Margaret, just stood there just for scale. Anyway, there's a video. We had about, I think, 4 or 5 videos that we released because they can see that in their computers. And here's a sample of it. That was the teaser video because it's arriving October 2012. So we did. We were able to launch it. So let's see. We started the project about April. We got the contracts, drank Coca-Cola, shook hands, and by June 2012, then we had it in October 2012. All because when we arrived at when we went to Noggin Labs, we had a set of documents that the documents that we were carrying, we were very confident about it because we were lucky enough to actually go to one of our colleagues, Sandy, from, well, she's the goddess of interactive productions and game production in Disney Interactive. And we were so nervous when we presented the documents to her because we wanted her to give us advice. And when she looked at it, she said, well, this is exactly how we do games in Disney Interactive. Wow, that really felt good. So we were very happy with that. Then plus the examples that I showed you about the economies of scale, that really helped a lot. We used the same mechanics, the same, just a slight change in graphics, but we were able to come up with a variety of games for our people. Now the results on this, okay, some initial results. Among our top 10 players, they vary from city to city, but the top 10 players are from Singapore. I saw somebody, there was some speaker here who said something about a lot of players are more pronounced in Asia, and it attested to the fact that 4 of the top 10 players are from Singapore, and we have one from Cincinnati, one from Dallas, and they're all in the tens of millions of points. Well, what does that mean? You know, nothing to benchmark with. But the average player is about like 350 to 500,000 points. But these guys were like way off. So that's another thing. That's another challenge that we started to face and see how we could how we can account for that. We do have 19 cities currently, but in the next few months we're releasing another upgrade. And that's going to go up to about 24 or 25 cities. This is the cool part. I told you about the 104,000 per hour that it costs Delta every time we pull people from all of our people for training. Well, our initial cost was less than 100,000. The secret there is an old Hollywood trick called product placement. Remember, I mentioned to you about the Alamo, the National, and Enterprise. Well, when we showed them the prototypes of this game, they loved it so much, they plunked in the money, and woohoo, we got it paid for. So it does cost several hundred thousands of dollars, about close to $500,000 to produce this first batch. So, hey, look, I gave you a lot to think about there. If you want to know more, please contact me. And I think we still have a few minutes, or no, 2 minutes, well. Yes, ma'am. Well, the answer is about the work. I mean, the answer, not the answer, but the question is about the work-at-home people, and how do they, or how do they use this if they are not in the in that kind of environment? Well, it's purely voluntary. So a lot of them actually have iPads, their personal iPads, and some of them just. And when we talk to them, they say, well, they're in the couch. Their husbands don't mind. They just keep playing it. And by the way, our audience is 76% female, which is a pretty differently skewed than the normal normal public. Yeah, so it's voluntary. They play it on their own computers. Yes, sir. It is rather. Were you talking about scalability? Okay. Yeah. So as we progress, right now we are going to add 5 more cities or 6 more cities. It is. I guess in short, for in the interest of time, it is very scalable. And it is growing bigger. In fact, even the portal that I showed you, that is growing. There are so many features that we've already built in but have not released yet. Okay, thank you very much.